All right, well, let's do it. So I guess we're back. We took a little bit of a break, and we're back at doing these interviews. So we've always started these with introductions. So why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
So my name's Ashley Corts, and I own Black Forge Coffee House here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Well, right on. Well, for people who might not be familiar with it, can you give them a little deeper dive into what Black Forge is all about and what each of the locations offers?
Yeah, so in 2015, we opened up our first location in the neighborhood of Allentown, which is still in the city of Pittsburgh. And what it is a coffee shop that also acts as a music venue, art gallery space, and community center. So what we do is we host all kinds of events, anything from poetry to drag shows to metal shows to hip hop shows. It doesn't matter. We host anything that anyone's willing to do on our stage. And 3 years into it, we needed to open up a second location because of the noise issues that we were having in the neighborhood of Allentown. And parking's really tough up there too, on top of being next to a police station. So it's kind of like a weird situation. But, being the respectful neighbors that we are, we understood, because I live in the neighborhood too. I live a block away. So
Right.
I understand that parking can be difficult and like noise can be difficult. And, we said, let's seek out another venue. So we found a venue that's like 15, 20 minutes away from the Allentown location in the borough of McKees Rocks. And this location, I actually bought the building. And trying to think of, when we bought it. Oh, August 2018, we bought the building. And we were here to provide a larger music venue space and a larger space to show art and everything. So just little Allentown converted into a much larger sister of it. And our goal has always been and continues to be providing a space for anyone to utilize.
Very cool. Well, so with that all being said, originally I contacted you because I thought it would be a good space to talk about your idea for getting Black Forge 2 back up and running as a music venue.
Yeah.
As I started prepping for that conversation, the entire world started falling apart all over again. So
Yep.
I'm glad we held off because now we're in a whole new mess that's starting to sound a lot like a feedback loop. So why don't we start there first? How has the newest orders for Allegheny County impacted how you're operating your business and your locations?
So at both of our locations, ever since COVID did start, we acted as takeout only. So we took away all the tables and chairs and took away access to restrooms and just made sure that everyone wore a mask. And unfortunately, we've had to refuse people service because they weren't wearing a mask. And at first we were kind of lenient because people are still getting used to the new norm. But even now to this day, I still get people walking in without a mask. I'm like, come on.
Right.
Like, we're 4 months into this. So, we acted as takeout only. And I'll tell you what, to be completely honest, when COVID hit and they sent out all of that news, I was scared. I was just like, what are we going to do? This business isn't already making money. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, I have to keep my doors open no matter what, or else we will fail. And there's nothing that can drag me out of that. So I took a chance, stayed open, and I asked all of my employees, I'm like, hey, do you feel safe working? If you need time off, you can collect unemployment, anything. And all of them were like, hey, we're here for the long run. So I had a couple of newer staff from McKees Rocks take time off, and I believe they found other jobs. I've just been kind of leaving everyone alone to, figure stuff out. But we had so many events scheduled, and we had to cancel all of them. And for those people, we carried out their deposits and everything to book a new date. And we had stuff booked for July too, like all the way back in March. We're like, oh, July should be safe. And lo and behold, we're not. So we had to just like officially cancel everything until things kind of calmed down. The only event that I actually have booked right now is my High Priestess Market, which is August 9th. It's an indoor-outdoor event.
Okay.
And that I'm keeping an eye out for that because I bought like contactless thermometers and like we have hand sanitizing stations, and we're just going to have one, going in, going out, just keep it as safe as possible and like keep social distancing a thing on the floor by Xing it out. But that's kind of like the precautions that we're taking with that. As far as, in here too, like in the beginning of COVID, I was making $50 a day. Like I had no idea what was going on. And we were just like, well, $50 is better than no dollars. So we're just going to continue to do this. And yeah, I mean, it started to pick back up again because more essential workers were starting to come out and realize like, hey, there's places open for me to get a cup of coffee in the morning. So literally 90% of my customers were all essential workers. So, and that still plays like, still to this day, I get like the same people in every morning.
That's kind of wild. Yeah, I can't even imagine like especially in those first couple days, or like even like maybe the first week or two, where you're just like everybody's at like peak fright, like
Yeah.
everybody's afraid of everything, and you're wondering like, when if at all this ever wears off, when am I going to see like some customers back? Will I see customers back?
Right.
Like, it's just like the amount of risk that you take as a small business owner is so huge. And I mean, I'm super happy to hear that people started coming back.
Yeah, it still to this day makes me feel like guilty in a weird way because, you can deem coffee shops essential or non-essential, but at the same time, I'm like, are you ordering pizza? Then I think coffee is essential if you think pizza is essential. So, and I know like I've seen a lot of back and forth about a lot of things over the time, like, small business owners staying open are just greedy businesses and they just want profits. Like, no, you don't understand. Like, if we stop paying all of our bills, because guess what? The mortgage isn't stopping, the electric bill isn't stopping, like, they don't give any relief. So how are we supposed to afford that, especially as a small business?
Exactly. Yeah, that was I thought that was like government 101, that they failed right out of the gate. Like, they didn't stop any mortgages, they didn't stop any rents, they didn't like defer any loans.
Nope.
It seemed like the first thing that everybody heard was all the money went to all these corporations, and then they gave banks a ton of money so that you guys could go through an unbelievably long process, because banks aren't built to give quick loans.
Yeah, no, that was that was wild too. So we applied for the PPP plan, and I remember filling that stuff out with my general manager the day of, like, yes, and the site was crashing and like all this crazy stuff was happening. And then we went through the entire process of like thousands of pieces of paper and like just constantly on the phone, like, what do you need next? What do you need next? Why do you need this again? What do you need next? And then we didn't get it. And I was like, well, that was an absolute waste. And then they
Wait,
gave
they
out the
denied
second
you?
one. Huh?
They denied you?
They denied us at first.
Okay.
And then we tried again, and then we finally got it. So, but the excruciating pain that like all the other small business owners that I talked to that got it as well, like, I'm glad we were all in the same boat, because it didn't make any sense how unorganized everything was, especially when you're offering, thousands of dollars to small businesses. Shouldn't you have, like, I understand we're in a pandemic, but stop leaving people out of, the loop, because we don't understand what's going on as well. We're just trying to follow the rules and the guidelines that you're giving us. And same with the news. Like, the recent thing of, you know, like we're back at takeout again. So I didn't know about it until one of my employees hit me up and they're like, hey, did you know that we have to be takeout again? I was like, I didn't get anything. So
yeah, it happened real quick. So I'm one of the people that has to now work from home like permanently,
yeah,
which I actually don't hate. I've done this unbelievable job with like my office and everything like that
it
it's
looks
actually
good.
become like it's a funny part was when I used to go to the office, I never used this office at all. And then now when I'm not going to the office, this has become like a very creative space for me. So I think it's just the exhaustion of actually being like away and at like a physical
Yeah,
location for 8 hours that like was really taking it out of me, because I'm doing a lot more now here.
right.
But I mean, I just lost my train of thought. Where were we going? I don't know. What were you just saying?
We were talking about the PPP plan, and then talking about the newest thing where they take out only.
Right. Yeah.
You're working permanently from home.
And well, so I wanted to go back to the PPP thing, and thank you for saying that. Where you were saying that everybody seemed that they were all in the same boat, because I mean, we're now, you know, as far as like these interviews are concerned, I'm in the double digits of doing these now, and not a single person that I talked to was like, yeah, it was a completely smooth transition. We applied, we heard back right away, and you
Yeah,
know, like it was like months and months. Like at some point, somebody was they finally got in touch with me, and they were like, "Hey, like we just got our not even an acceptance letter, but just like an acknowledgement that they received the application." They're like, "So, you know, there's progress, I guess. Like here's, you know, like, but so how long did it take for the funding to actually arrive to you?"
several weeks for sure. Like it didn't come immediately. I know that. Um, I remember quite a few phone calls with the bank that we were working with and being like, hey, do you have any information? They're like, not yet, not yet, not yet. Like, if the people that are giving us the money don't have the information, how are we supposed to know what's going on? And they were very like weird about, you know, they were changing the rules on how long it's extended now. So they were like, you have 8 weeks or however long it was to use this money, and it has to be, you know, 70%, you know, rent or whatever, or payroll. I forgot the digits for it, but you know, it was very like loose, but at the same time stern. And oh, are we good? Sorry,
Yep,
someone
yep.
was calling me.
Nope, you're good.
But
You're good. I see you.
But yeah, so I forgot what I was talking about too.
How long it took the loan to get you.
So yeah, it was again just like no one had the information, and it just kind of appeared in the new bank account one day. I was like, oh, that's cool. Thanks for the warning, guys. Like,
Right.
But it was hard to figure out payroll because I had to jump back and forth from different accounts and try to calculate it properly. And there's like a stack of paper that I have to go through and fill out. I mean, I am very grateful that we got it, but you know, they didn't make it easy. And I'm just really happy to hear that a lot of people actually got it, because I was so scared that a lot of small businesses couldn't get it, but they did. So
Yeah, and just the fact that it ever, like the first wave of it ran out, the fact that they had an account that was funded so little that it ran out like so quickly, like within days.
yeah.
That was again just another giant failure. You know, like the amount of like white collar crime that took place during all of this is kind of like absurd. that I don't think people really fully understand yet, but I think they will soon. I think they will once they're not afraid of their lives from a virus. I think they'll figure out what happened. They'll double back and look at the politics of it all.
Right, exactly.
So between the two locations, like you were saying, you were having trouble like trying to allocate the funds correctly. Like, how many employees do you have now?
So right now I have Alex. I have 8 employees.
Okay. I mean, I assume you were saying that you had gotten in touch with them about everything and like gave them the option of how they wanted to handle it.
Right.
Just in general, how have they been holding up through all of this?
Well, my employees have been extremely safe about everything. Like, they are militant when it comes to it. I get phone calls every day like, I'm sorry if we get a bad review because I had to refuse someone's service for not wearing a mask. I'm like, good, keep doing it because they need to learn. Like, we're in this together and we have to figure out this thing. We have to wear masks. We have to follow the guidelines. Like, that's why we're shut down again, because people could not follow the rules. But, as far as my employees, they're just on top of it. Even any of them, a couple of them were like, oh, I have a cold or I don't feel well. They stayed home and quarantined themselves. And they're like, I'm going to take the next week off and I'm going to get tested. And I was like, good. I'm glad that everyone's doing that and everyone's been safe, and thank the Almighty for, not having any issues within our staff. And, they're just grateful that they have something to do. I mean, that was the one concern. One of my staff members said, they're like, if I wasn't working, I have no idea what I'd be doing. I have no clue. And I feel the same way. I'm like, if I took a day off, I don't know what I'm doing with myself, like, it just makes me cringe not like knowing what's next. And, again, I just feel bad for like everyone that's suffering in so many different ways because of this.
Yeah, there's definitely some people that are just getting hit from every direction, which is the absolute worst. You were saying that they were, your employees were calling you and being like, if we get a bad review, like, sorry, I had to be mean about them not wearing a mask. Yeah. But I feel like that should be something where you should be able to like screenshot that and reshare the terrible review. That's like, and then it should like actually give you like social points. Like people actually like up your cred score of like you're actually out there looking out for people. And even though like they decided to like yell at you through your they try to like undercut you through the review system, that like it actually works in your favor.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I'll keep an eye out. If I do get any, I'll share it with you.
Dude, you should like screenshot them and be like, just like throw them back out there. Be like, these are the ones that we're proud of. Like, we're proud of these bad reviews. So now that we're kind of talking about just basically being the struggles or having the struggles of a small business owner, before we move on, I want to wind it back just a little bit further. So as a purely social media spectator, I basically tuned in and watched the entire ordeal unfold. That was you getting Black Forge 2 up and running. So take as much time as you need to lay it out, but would you please tell the story of everything you went through to get that location launched?
Absolutely. So, what was it? June 2018. Well, I'll go back a little further than that. So what we talked about before with not being able to have shows or do any of that stuff, that's when we seeked out a second venue. I remember we were looking at venues during the wintertime. And then, we jumped to different locations all throughout the city. And, there were a lot of neighborhoods that already had coffee shops or local music venues or, something that we already provide. So my biggest thing is I do not like competing like especially with another small business. If there's a neighborhood that already has a coffee shop, like I wouldn't dare go over there because that is unfair. So the Keys Rocks was one neighborhood, especially down here in the Chartiers Avenue area. There's really nothing down here besides the Roxy and us and a couple restaurants down here. And that's really it. But, you know, we decided to do a Kickstarter to make this happen. So we did the Kickstarter starting June, and we had 30 days to raise $30,000. I don't know how we did it, but somehow we raised $35,000 in 30 days. But that was a whole story within itself. I won't even dig that deep. But, you know, after we raised this money, we were able to put a down payment on this building. The building here was built in 1901, and originally it was a bank. And there's only been 3 previous owners. So I thought that was really cool that I am the 4th owner of this historical building. And, you know, we went through a lot of battles with that, dealing with, you know, lenders. You know, it ended up working at the end, but man, trying to get these lenders to believe in your mission, it was like doing it all over again. Because opening up Black Forge 1, I was denied left and right. Like, no, this mission doesn't work, or you don't have enough capital, or you don't have this, or you don't have that. I'm like, why is this so hard? Like, why can't you let me accomplish my dreams? And I had to rewrite our business plan like 10 freaking times and like all this crazy stuff. And, you know, we ended up getting the loan to purchase the building. And the reason that they accepted it, I swear, is because, you know, they were like, I don't know. But when we raised all that money from the Kickstarter, they're like, oh, you seem like a prime candidate for this because people like you. I'm like, oh, glad that you are now figuring that out, and had to wait this long to lend us some money, but whatever. But
Interesting. So they had insight into your Kickstarter?
yes, actually a couple of the people that were helping us donated to it.
That's wild. So yeah, so then they knew right away that you had like built-in demand.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And then we got the keys, and then it was me, my business partner at the time, and we had 3 employees. So those 3 employees ran the Allentown shop, and I was just doing it here. Like, I was here every single day working on this building. Oh man, I think it was 9 months worth. But in the beginning of this process of this building, it is unfortunate, but me and my ex-business partner decided to part ways. That was a decision that we both had to make for it. And so there was that. We had a contractor that was a customer of ours. He decided that he was going to be a terrible person and steal $30,000 worth of money from us. You know, like saying it's labor, or hey, I got all these parts, or hey this, or hey that. And honestly, like, how old was I? 28 years old. So me as a 28-year-old, and even just a 30-year-old now, there's a lot of things I don't know about the world, especially when it comes to terrible people. I am such a loving person that I believe if like I have a connection with somebody, it's always going to be like a good one, and I can trust them. And that always proves me wrong. So that guy stole a bunch of money from us, getting like the equipment in here and trying to, you know, deal with all this crap. Like, this place was a shit show. It was awful. But yeah, we dealt with that. And then I tried to sue him, and then I had to deal with my ex-business partner. So that got all crazy and wild. And then I didn't have a lawyer for a time. And like, you know, I'm dealing with the architects here, and they're like, you can't do anything. Like, why did you buy this building? Because they were like, oh, the ADA compliancy isn't to code, and this, that, and the other thing. And I had to spend all this money on trying to get like these specific blueprints, and they didn't work out. And I wish I can go through all of it. But yeah, what else happened? You have to remember some of this, don't you?
I mean, I would see you post these pictures of you just exhausted and haggard from putting in God knows how many hours a day. And then just like the litany of nonsense that you were dealing with while doing manual labor. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is, if there isn't like a physical example of what blood, sweat, and tears really like is, like I feel like I'm watching it. I feel like I'm seeing it happen. Like here, this is the embodiment of that phrase.
I appreciate that very much. Like, trying to talk about it now, it just seems like ridiculous, and I forgot half the things, especially on the spot talking about it. But all I remember is just literally coming in here every single day and being like, all right, here's my laundry list of things that I have to do. Looks like today I'm scraping shit off the floor and painting it, or laying concrete, or, putting a, truss in the ceiling. Like,
The laying the concrete one stands out in my mind. That one specifically stands out in my mind.
That was interesting. This was the contractor situation. So the contractor's like, all right, I'm gonna lay this concrete down, and it's gonna be fine, and then we're gonna do the whole thing. And I was like, all right, man. He lays it, all of it cracks the next day, and I was like, what the hell? And then, I figured out what was wrong, so I decided to do the whole floor myself in like a whole day's worth. And all I had was a wheelbarrow. And oh yeah, at the time too, we didn't have running water, so I had to use bottles of water to fill up the wheelbarrow with the concrete. I mixed it with originally it was the drill, but then like my drill got messed up and like chunky with concrete, so I had a hand mixer from the kitchen. But I did that for a while too. Yeah, I forgot about that one. And then there was the time where the contractor messed up the floor. So I had to get on the floor and like scrape up all of this like sealant that dried really weird. So I had to scrape it up, and then I took the blade and it went directly through my hand. There was that one.
Oh, yeah. I'm having that feeling where like it's like real weird behind my legs right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
I just remember my buddy was here with me. It was New Year's Eve, and I just remember waking up that day. I'm just like, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't want to go to work, but I had to. And my buddy's like, hey, I'll help you out for a little while. And we're up in the office. I'm scraping the floor. It goes into my hand, and I just remember thinking like, what do I do? So I stood up and I looked at him like, hey man, I think I have to go to the hospital. He was like, what? And I ripped it out of my hand, and there was just blood pouring down. And I was just like, well, looks like we have to go to the hospital. So I had a hair tie in my hair, and I ripped it out, and there's like hair all over it, and took like a dirty napkin and wrapped my hand in it because that's all I had. Got to the hospital. The hospital was like closed, so we had to go to Med Express. And then that was the first time I had to deal with that. And I'm weird. Like being tattooed is like whatever, but when it comes to like getting stitches, like I'm not. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's not great. I've had my fair share, but. Yeah, I'd much rather have a tattoo. I got a few of my own. They're about to get real visible after all this time of being able to sit and think about designs at home.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So yeah, they're gonna start creeping out from behind my shirt pretty soon here.
Nice.
So how was it whenever you finally get the new location open? And then you get to have your first show? What was that day like?
Oh man. So Do you want to hear about the first show or like the kind of first show?
I want to hear about I just whatever's more memorable to you.
Okay. So this is terrible. This is a moment that I'm not proud of at all. It was Thanksgiving week and we had a show booked in Allentown or something. And we were trying to move a show that we originally had booked here because we weren't open yet. Like, we weren't even close. But they were like, I forgot what happened, but we ended up having the show anyways. I was gone. And I was like, hey, employees, have fun. That was the worst thing I possibly could have done. I was just like, I'm so sorry, but you guys can handle this. And they had their first show. So we had this show with like 10 people here. It was stupid. But that was our first show. There's nothing really memorable about it besides having a couple people in here, and it didn't seem like a show because the venue was like completely torn apart. There was still a scissor lift in here. Half the floor was concreted. Like, it did not look good. But we had it anyways.
Well, how about the first show? How about the first show that like you were there for? That like it was ready for, like the venue was ready.
Our first awesome official show was Zayo.
Okay.
And are you familiar with them at all?
Yeah.
So we had a sold out room, and it was wild. It was the coolest shit I could ever ask for. I'm just seeing all these people I haven't seen in months, and everyone's piling in. And, we have, our stuff is, you remember Altar Bar?
Yes.
So I worked at Altar Bar for a long time as a lighting designer there. And a lot of the equipment in here is from Altar Bar, which is really cool.
Okay.
But, yeah, like it was a beautiful moment. I sat upstairs and cried for a while because it was just like, I have windows up there, if you can see them. And I just remember peering out at the sea of people, just like, hanging out and watching the show. And yeah, it was awesome. And then the following day we had another sold out show. So that was cool. And then after that, I was told that I couldn't open the shop. Because I had to wait for paperwork to be filed with my ex-business partner. So we had these shows and I'm like, yeah, we're finally gonna open. Like, this is gonna be great. And I was told I couldn't because of legal things. So that's why Black Forge opened up in July instead of March.
Well, so I think this is so important to hear, like, your story, because small businesses aren't get rich quick schemes, and they're not safety blankets that keep us warm at night.
Right.
They're products of passion and sacrifice, literal blood, sweat, and tears. Like I said before, you give up a lot in life to have the freedom to call nobody your boss. But with that, you give up the professional convenience of taking on little to no risk.
Yeah.
Like, I hope people hear this story and realize that it's not even unique to just you, and like appreciate that everything small business owners put on the line so that people can have these like specialized, high quality, like conveniences in their life that they love. Like, I think that's so important that that people hear stories like this, because I just think they need to appreciate more what you go through to give them the things that they love.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's like, I help people write business plans on the side, just as, a thing that I like to do for people, because I believe, that if you give good out, you receive good in return. And, one of those things that I'm really proud of, and that what I know I can help people with is writing a business plan. I've given my business plan to several other businesses that are still going and kicking ass. And especially recently, I've been trying to put out in the world that I'm trying to help more Black entrepreneurs with their business plans as well, to kind of get them a kickstart on what they want to accomplish with their dreams. But yeah, like, as a small business owner, and it's weird. I don't like talking about myself. It's like one of those weird things, but like when you put everything that you have on the line and you put your heart, your soul, your money, everything that you have to deal with on a normal day basis into this one thing, you become attached to it. And that's something that people try to teach you, is like, you can't be so attached to your business because, you have to separate your personal life from your business life. But when you've dedicated so much time to it, you become your business. And I know for me, I take things very personally when people attack Black Forge. And I don't think people understand, how much it hurts small business owners when you write that one negative review, because, like, again, we're putting our blood, sweat, and tears into everything that we do, and we do take it personally. And, there are sacrifices that we make, like maybe not having a family, or maybe, not being able to go on that vacation that you planned 10 years ago, or, whatever happens, you just kind of sacrifice everything to just keep going. And, at this point in my life, that's why I work 5 days a week, 7 days a week. I'm in my shop baristaing Monday through Friday. I've been doing that for 5 years. And I still love what I do every single day. And, some days are harder than others, but at the end of the day, like, I still have a place to call my own, and I still have a place that I can be proud of. And I have a staff that loves what they do. There's so many rewards to it, but also there's a lot of negatives to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I almost would reject the idea of you need to separate your personal life from your business life, because your business, I mean, at least in the way that, like, I see it, especially if I had like a brick and mortar location, like, it's, I'm a part of a startup. There are a set of values that I needed to have in place to be on board with what we're doing, and they're there, and I stand by them very solidly. And so, like, for me, it's hard to separate that at all, because it reflects who I am. Like, that's the whole point, is to make a business that reflects who you are, and not so much like, oh, this is my money generating thing that just means that I don't have a boss. It's like, no, like, I created something that I wanted to do so that I could do something that I love.
Yeah. And that's, like, what business classes teach you, is like, you shouldn't be so attached to your business when you're doing this. But again, like, people like me and you, and like everyone else that has, like, their passion project, we're a lot different than money generating, like, people. We want to be involved with our communities. We want to have that face-to-face interactions with the people that we deal with regularly. It's about creating a community,
Right.
in small business. And I think a lot of people don't understand that as well. It's just like, again, with sacrifices, you pick your location because you want to benefit that neighborhood in some sort of way. And for example, with Black Forge, we're located next to Zone 3 Police Station. And I remember that being a big stink to people because we're located next to them. And it's just like, how do you expect me to just, I'm doing the best that I can. And this is the location that we have because this was better to fit our needs for what we need to do for this community. And this comes down to, again, like, sorry, loud truck, but, customers and people always try to put out there, like, what you should do with your business, or what you should do with this, or you should have done that way. It's just like, yeah, I know, but it happened this way, and I'm still learning from my mistakes. And again, just growing as a person, and you grow your business that way. I know, like for me, I always tell people the first thing that you need to know about your business is your mission, and what are your principles and what are your guidelines, because those are the most important things that you need to know before you think about opening up a business.
Agreed. I mean, I think a lot of people, so when people are going, you should have done this with your business or whatever, I think a lot of them don't even realize that you already know that, yeah, if you would have gone that avenue, you wouldn't be leaving money on the table the way that you are. But there's an ethical thing, there's a principled thing behind why you are leaving money on the table. Like there's something that you're doing for the benefit of others, or the benefit of just like your own sanity, like being able to sleep at night, knowing that you did it the way that you thought it was correct.
Yeah, I
So,
absolutely agree with that.
so yeah, like they could be totally correct in a business sense, but there, if you're not a small business owner, there's just a couple things that you just don't understand, especially if you're doing it, if it literally isn't just because you want to have like your own business, just to make money. Like, and you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But if it's like something that creates or like feeds your creative side, and it's the thing that you're passionate about, like there's little to no negotiation for anything else to influence it in that way, because then it just starts to get corrupted.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Well, so before we call it a day, let's shift like the focus a little bit. So clearly you have had a completely stress-free couple years.
Yes. Wow.
Totally.
There's no gray hair in this head of head, like, oh my God.
So, just as a person, like on a human level, how are you personally doing in all of this?
So I have no shame to talk about who I am as a person. And I'll be completely honest with you. I suffer from severe anxiety, depression, bipolar, and there were many years there that I was not medicated properly. And all of the stress and not realizing, my mental and emotional health wasn't right. It took a big toll on me in a lot of decisions that I've made and how I treated myself and my body. And that's why, during those 9 months of working on this building, I wasn't taking care of myself at all. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I would just spend hours and hours and hours part of the day here because of my bipolar swings of just like, go, 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 go. You have to go, you have to keep going. You cannot stop. And when you stop, everything hits you like a ton of bricks. And I couldn't understand how to get that under control. So, years of all of these things piling up because I've never been able to kind of let go of a lot of situations that have happened to me personally within this business. Because again, like you hold things so personally and it sticks with you, especially when you love something so much. And, there's still to this day, I think about things that I might have done wrong or situations that I've been in and those death threats that I've received and all those things, like they affect me as a person now. And I'm trying to stop letting them affect me for the future person that I will be. And back to the time of working on the space, like I had a severe mental breakdown. And this was like, when people say they have a breakdown, it could mean 1,000 different things. But when you just completely lose control of yourself and, you literally just, you're blank, you're a vegetable. You don't understand, like you don't know where you are. You don't know why you're so angry. You don't know what emotions are, and you just crash. And that's what happened to me. Then I ended up being in a mental health program for 9 weeks. And that taught me how to be a person again and how to handle the stresses of, just being a human on top of being a small business owner. And, I finally was, taken by a therapist and a psychiatrist and like really actually like buckled down and figured out like what do you need to function? Because this stress that you are dealing with is not okay. And I finally have found the route of the proper medication that I'm on. And I absolutely love talking about mental health because it's so important for small business owners to understand. Even if you aren't diagnosed with anything, like the stresses that you deal with every day have to be, talked about. They have to be understood, and you have to be aware. And there's so many things that you have to put into it. And I suggest to everybody, like, get a therapist if you're a small business owner. I don't care if you think it's silly or not. Like, it's so important. It's so important to have something for you to let go of those stresses, even if it's just a friend, someone. It's really important to have that for yourself, because again, you don't want to end up dissolving your entire life away just chasing after something that you aren't fully focusing on, because everything's just passing by so fast. You're like, I'm on the go, I'm going. I've never, the day that we opened the shop, I didn't care. I just wanted it to be over with, because all of that stress that I had for so many months finally boiled down to that moment, and I just stopped caring. And that was probably the most hurtful thing that I've dealt with personally, is like, it didn't mean anything to me. And still to this day, I can't believe it's almost been a year, but I still, if a lot of situations didn't happen, I'd probably be a lot more happy than I am now. But let's be real, like, we are human, we have emotion, we have feelings, we've been through different walks of life. And if a specific situation didn't happen the second day of opening here, I think I'd be a lot happier for sure.
So with all that being said, has that equipped you pretty well to deal with like the COVID situation? Like, are like you're feeling like you're basically able to take it pretty head on?
Yeah, no, like when COVID hit, I was like, I've dealt with a lot worse. So like,
Right. I mean, that's kind of like, that was kind of where like what I was thinking of whenever all the businesses were starting to put out updates, and then I saw like one of your first updates go out about like how Black Forge was handling stuff, and I was like, she's actually kind of dealt with worse, I think. Like it wasn't going to kill the public or anything like that, but like kind of, it's like as a business, I think she's dealt with worse.
you are 100% right, and I absolutely appreciate you for understanding and recognizing that, just through, like, honestly, when I was posting stuff like during that whole thing, I was like, I was in a whole other world. I was in a whole other realm. I didn't know who was listening or caring or anything. I was just like, I got to put this out here because I'm going to forget every moment, and I will not forget because of Facebook memories. So thank you, Facebook.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like why I wanted you to tell the story now, because I only ever got it through like those incremental updates, right? Like you only gave them like basically when you had the energy to give them, and then I just kind of had to put it all together myself. So like to have you on the other side just kind of like string all the events together and give like a little bit more of like, you know, emotion and context and nuance to it, then like it kind of, it brings all of that back to me and then kind of ties a lot of it together.
Good. That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. I absolutely enjoy, sitting down and talking to people that want to hear, the story of Black Forge and, what we've been through as a company, because it's been a hell of a 5 years. We are going to celebrate 5 years on August 9th.
That's wild. What
Yeah.
do you have? I mean, not that there's a whole lot of options coming up, but like if there is a way to do it, like somehow, what would you? Are you gonna have some sort of a celebration? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I have my women's market scheduled for August 9th here in McKees Rocks. So that will be something, because I was like, I really wanted to throw a big party, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I was like, well, we can have the women's market on this day. And in Allentown, we'll just probably have like a cookout or something. Just, just something chill. Try to keep everyone safe and, whatever. I never thought I'd make it to 5 years, to be completely honest. So I'm kind of excited to see what the future brings. But, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, and it's been a wild ride to be on with you, just as a spectator. So, but so we're on the final stretch of like this interview now. It's such a huge bummer, but like obviously it looks like we're back to like needing to keep pretty isolated again. But like the purpose of this has always been, and it hasn't, it hasn't changed at all, like to create an opportunity to connect with others, these interviews. So what we like to do is wrap up with giving you the opportunity to ask a question to the people watching. And so do you have anything you'd like to ask the people watching? And it can be anything. It can be super serious. It can be Netflix recommendations, like anything.
Ooh, I don't like being put on the spot. I guess, after listening to me speak, what are your opinions on what makes a community stronger? What's the foundation that you think can help bring a community back up and a neighborhood to be flourishing with businesses and people that can benefit from what's there? Because this leads to, things talking about like gentrification and, who plays what part in their communities and understanding who people are, and what makes you happy, what makes you proud to live in your neighborhoods.
I love that. So yeah, how did you say that? What do you think a business can do to make a community stronger?
Yeah.
All right. So in the comments, tag her, leave your suggestions, your answers, your thoughts, whatever. And so that they can do that. Lastly, tell the people where they can reach you, your website, social media, all the things.
Yeah, so if you want to follow Blackforge, we have 2 Facebook pages. It's just Blackforge 1 Allentown and Blackforge 2 McKees Rocks. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it is Blackforge Shop. I'm really bad with Twitter. I haven't been on it in years, so I wouldn't say any chance of twittering at all. Tweeting, to be correct. And then if you want to follow me personally, my name's Ashley Bianca Corts. I'd be more than happy to have any conversation with you anytime, and I'd be happy to have you in my coffee shop and offer you a cup of coffee.
Well, awesome, Ashley. Man, this was great, and it sucks that we couldn't have the original conversation because I was really looking forward to kind of like gearing up for more music. I had Brian Howe on, he was my last guest, and we were really starting to talk about that. And then obviously we had a pretty significant setback as a county, but like it's really happening everywhere. But it is what it is. I'm super happy that you're just muscling through and everything seems to be at least going as well as it can, all things considered. So thank you for coming on and speaking with me and telling me all of these stories and being as, vulnerable and available as you've been.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I believe that communication is the most important thing that we can, have in this lifetime. And what's better than sharing stories with people that, can understand and appreciate each other and learn from each other. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. Well, stay safe out there, and everybody wear a friggin' mask.
Yes, please.